Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza is brought to you by Sport Relay. Honest, unbiased, and apolitical. Sport Relay, your connection to the diamond. And by A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volumes 1 and 2, by Evan Thompson. Relive the glory. A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs.
This week on Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza, Meltdown Anatomy, Wildcard Series Edition. Deadbolt Delivered, Wildcard Series Edition. And a review of the Wildcard Series and preview of the 4-Division Series with our special guest, Jose Romero from the Arizona Republic. Don't go away! The Wildcard edition of Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza begins now. Welcome to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. I'm your host, Evan Thompson, Editor-in-Chief, National Writer, and Athletics Writer at Sport Relay. I also wrote these two books, A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volume 1, The Pre-Divisional Tiebreakers through 1976, and Volume 2, 1977 through 1984. If you are interested in ordering a copy or two, there are links in the description box below this video. And given that it's October right now, this is a great time to get them. What a wildcard round. 3 of the 4 went the distance. All 3 Cubs-Padres games were close, and the Yankees became the first team since this round became permanent in 2022 to lose Game 1, but win the next 2 games to take the series. The 4-division series should all be interesting, with 2 of them being intra-division matchups. The regular season gave us 9 alarm fires, but October is a different animal. In the wildcard series, the swings weren't as massive on paper, but in the postseason, a 15% drop in win expectancy can feel like the ground caving in. In this episode, we have 3 innings where the pressure boiled over, the leverage spiked, and the margins disappeared. 3 games, 3 meltdowns, and 3 reminders that in October, even the smallest crack can end your season. It's time for Meltdown Anatomy. Let's start in New York. Game 1, top of the 7th inning, Red Sox at Yankees. The Yankees lead 1-0. Starting pitcher Max Fried is facing the 7, 8, and 9 hitters, and the Yankees' win expectancy is 70%. Jarren Duran grounded out, but Luke Weaver came on and immediately got into trouble. A walk and a Nick Sogard double put 2 in scoring position, and Masataka Yoshida delivered the knockout punch. As we said earlier, Jarren Duran ground out brings the Yankees' win expectancy to 74%. In comes Luke Weaver replacing starting pitcher Max Fried. Ceddanne Rafaela walks. Yankees' win expectancy is now 69%. Nick Sogard doubles. Runners are now on second and third. Yankees' win expectancy is down to 53%. Masataka Yoshida with a pinch hit 2-run single gives the Red Sox a 2-1 lead. The Yankees' win expectancy is down to 30%. Pitching change as Fernando Cruz replaces Luke Weaver. Trevor Story strikes out swinging to bring the Yankees' win expectancy to 33%. Alex Bregman draws a walk. Yankees' win expectancy is 31%. And Nathaniel Lowe lines to right, ending the half inning.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
A goose egg was not possible for Luke Weaver since he entered the game with 1 out and nobody was on base. He wouldn't have the requisite outs plus inherited runners to get 3, so he can't get a goose egg. So even though he gave up 2 earned runs, he did not get a broken egg. Cruz held the line, but it was too late. The win expectancy swing went from 70% for the Yankees down to 30%, a drop of 40 percentage points. Our next 2 innings both come from Cleveland. This one comes from Game 2, bottom of the 8th. Tigers pitching. Game is tied 1-1. Troy Melton is facing the 8, 9, and 1 hitters. The Tigers' win expectancy at this point is 39%. The trigger point came when Brian Rocchio hit a solo homer that gave the Guardians the lead. From there, The Guardians piled on with doubles and a Bo Naylor bomb. Here's the sequence. C.J. Kafis grounds out. Tigers win expectancy is 44%. Brian Rocchio, home run. Guardians now lead 2-1. The Tigers win expectancy has swung to 15% with that one hit. Stephen Kwan doubles, dropping the Tigers win expectancy to 12%. Daniel Schneemann, an RBI double to make the score 3-1 and drop the Tigers win expectancy to 5%. Jose Ramirez draws an intentional walk. Tigers win expectancy remains at 5%. In comes Brant Herter, replacing Melton. Kyle Manzardo grounds out, but the runners advance. Tigers win expectancy goes up a little bit to 6%. But Bo Naylor's 3-run home run puts the Guardians in a 6-1 lead and drops the Tigers' win expectancy to 1%. Gabriel Arias grounds out. Inning is over.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
A broken egg for Melton as he surrendered the lead and left runners when he was in a goose egg scenario. Herter inherited 2, both of them scored. The win expectancy swing dropped by 38 percentage points for the Tigers. They already were below 50%. They were at 39, but dropping all the way to 1, I mean, the game was just out of reach for them at that point. Our third inning comes from the very next game. Top of the 7th inning of Game 3. Tigers at Guardians. The Guardians are pitching. The Tigers are ahead 2-1. Eric Sabrowski is facing the 8, 9, and 1 hitters. Now, the Guardians' win expectancy is 31%. This is a situation where they don't want to fall farther behind because they want to stay in it. The trigger point comes when Javi Baez doubles. Parker Meadows bunts for a hit. He was trying to get a sacrifice, but beat out the throw. And suddenly the Tigers had 2 in scoring position with nobody out. Hunter Gaddis came in, but the inning snowballed into a 4-run avalanche. Here's the sequence. As we just mentioned, Javi Baez double. Guardians win expectancy drops to 24%. Drops to 24%. Parker Meadows, bunt single. Runners are now on first and third. Guardians win expectancy is 17%. In comes Hunter Gaddis to replace Sabrowski. Gleyber Torres grounds out. Runners advance. Guardians now have a 21% win expectancy. Kerry Carpenter, intentional walk. Guardians win expectancy is 21%. 2-run single by Wencel Perez gives the Tigers a 4-1 lead and drops the Guardians win expectancy to 8%. RBI single from Spencer Torkelson makes it 5-1. Guardians win expectancy is 4%. Riley Green, an RBI single, makes it 6-1. Guardians win expectancy is 3%. Matt Festa comes into the game to stop the bleeding. Dylan Dingler walks, loads the bases. Guardians win expectancy is 2%. Zach McKinstry strikes out looking. It's a 3% win expectancy for the Guardians. And then Javi Baez pops out, ends the inning. The Tigers batted around.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
Gaddis inherited 2 runners, both of whom scored. Festa limited the damage, but the inning was already lost. The win expectancy swing, Guardians were already, like I said, below 50%. They were at 31%, but it dropped all the way to 3%, effectively ending their chances to win this game. 3 innings, 3 meltdowns, 3 different ways October can break your heart. The Yankees watched the 70% edge vanish in the span of 3 batters. The Tigers saw their 39% foothold in Game 2 collapse under a barrage of extra base hits. And in Game 3, Cleveland's 31% chance to rally evaporated as the Tigers piled on 4 runs. In the postseason, the swings don't have to be massive to be fatal because every crack feels like a collapse. Now for the most dominant team relief performances of the wildcard round. It's time for Deadbolt Delivered, where we honor the relief units that slammed the door and threw away the key. Here are the wildcard round's door slams. Real quick, for those who are new to this segment or have forgotten since the last episode, to get a door slam, a team must close out the game with at least 3 consecutive goose eggs. This string must be completely uninterrupted. There cannot be any broken eggs in there, there cannot be any mezz in there, and there can't be any situation where the score differential is such that the pitcher doesn't get any of the 3. It must be goose egg, goose egg, goose egg. Bang, 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 at least 3 in a row. Why is this important? If a team gets a door slam, they completely shut the opponent down en route to a narrow victory. When the last outs are on the line, it's lockdown only. The door slam celebrates those nights when the back end doesn't just protect the lead, it shuts the door, throws the deadbolt, and walks away with the key. In the 4 wildcard series, there were 2 door slams. The first came when Drew Pomeranz, Andrew Kittredge, and Brad Keller of the Cubs finished off their Game 1 victory over the Padres, facing the minimum 9 hitters. And the second came from Fernando Cruz, Devin Williams, and David Bednar of the Yankees when they closed out Game 2 against the Red Sox. Coming up next, a wildcard post-mortem and Division Series preview with our guest, Jose Romero of the Arizona Republic. Don't go away. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. With me is a second-time guest, a trusted friend, and baseball mind, Jose Romero from the Arizona Republic. He covers the Diamondbacks. Welcome back to the show, Jose.
Go Ducks. Hello.
Bring Oregon stuff in here with a University of Arizona grad. How dare you? I'm just kidding. All right.
Big win over Penn State last week. I'm still excited about it.
That was a huge win over Penn State. Oregon is one of the few that's actually had a good move to the Big Ten, because UCLA and USC, that has not worked out.
You're right, and they were the first 2 to go, and then everything else kind of fell around it, but hasn't worked out for them.
Yeah, I love how USC left broke up the Pac-12 to lose to, was it Illinois, like 11 in the morning Pacific time or something silly like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the nature of the beast. When you're in that conference, you got to play at every time zone. East teams got to travel west teams got to go east.
Yeah. So, East and West, we saw in the wild card round of our Major League Baseball playoffs so far. What were your general impressions of that round?
The Dodgers did what I expected they would do. I didn't think the Reds were ready for the big stage. However, I credit them for getting there. The Yankees Red Sox series, I loved seeing 3 decisive, games in one day. I mean, one after another. That was fantastic. They might not have all been. They were close for a while, most of them, and the Yankees had the home field advantage and used it. They looked like they were on the ropes after Game 1, but they pulled it back together. And I was a little surprised that the Tigers won. I thought the Guardians might take that one because the Guardians came in on fire and the Tigers didn't. But, I mean, Detroit was a really good team all year long. And just, you can't really, you can kind of, if you knock September out of the equation, they were outstanding. A very talented team with Tarek Skubal and a really good supporting cast. So good for Detroit. And then the Padres Cubs, I mean, that one was maybe the most hard fought of them all. I thought the Padres might do it. I really did. I thought the Padres had a really good year and they had the bullpen in place. They have a pretty decent offense, but the Cubs just shut them down. And I mean, I was looking, I think I read somewhere where the big 3 in that Padres order, Tatis, Machado, Merrill, and Arias, they struggled. Like they went like 189 or something, or one something. It was just a terrible batting average for those.
They went 2 for 24.
Yeah, just bad.
Whatever that average is.
The offense didn't come through for them, bottom line. And I know the umpires' calls were kind of questionable there in the last inning with Bogarts at the plate. But I mean, there was so much they could have done before that to not be in that situation.
Yeah. You mentioned the 3 winner-take-all games on the same day. Second time that's ever happened in Major League history. The guy who wrote the only history books on the Major League Baseball playoffs should have written a column about that. Oh, wait, he did! Because that's me! So, I gotta self-promote. It's my show, But, yeah, the difference between this one and the one in 1981 was we got to see all 3 games here back to back to back. Because in 1981, NBC had the National League Division Round games and ABC had the American League Division Round games, and because all the 5th games fell on a Sunday, they had to work around their NFL broadcast schedule. So the two National League games happened at the same time, and it was regional coverage. So you couldn't see both. You watched one and got in-game updates from the other one. So people who saw Jerry Royce throw a shutout at the and victimize Nolan Ryan, who himself pitched a great game, didn't get to see Steve Rogers beat Steve Carlton for the second time in the series. And you're old enough to remember Steve Rogers. A lot of people don't. Jason Stark and I were talking about him yesterday. We feel that, Steve Rogers doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't good, at that level for long enough. But we think that because he didn't make the Hall of Fame, a lot of us have forgotten how good he really was.
Yeah. I remember him. I remember him going against the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the big matchup, right? Like Valenzuela and Royce and the Dodgers pitching against, the Expos, and Rogers was the linchpin. And
mm-hmm.
They had the Expos had those great position players out there, all young and just reaching their prime. And man, that's why I wish baseball would have made it in Montreal, because they always did a good job of like building up their organization and getting their prospects to the majors and them playing well. And man, I hope it comes back for them one day. I don't think it ever will, but it would be nice.
That'd be awesome. Because that 81 team, when I interviewed Rick Monday for the book, he was telling me the Expos had everything. They had power, they had speed, they had pitching. And they had 3 Hall of Fame position players all in their primes. And what's crazy is Tim Raines was already in his prime, yet he was only in like his second year. And the 3 position players were Tim Raines, Andre Dawson, and Gary Carter. God rest Gary's soul. So yeah, that was fun. But back to the modern day. In the wild card round here, which relief unit did you feel was the strongest? I'll have you answer first, then I'll give you the answers I came up with.
I mean, top of my head, I'm thinking Detroit, because I think Mize had a really short start. Flaherty, they were able to get in. They were able to keep that game close for a long time, and then do something towards the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And both games, I think the two game, what was it, game 2 and game, actually all of them really. So the starting pitching, I mean, Skubal was, he was unhittable in game 1, pretty much unhittable. Mm-hmm. And then you go to the next 2 guys that's definitely a step down with those 2. Flaherty didn't pitch very long. Mize didn't pitch very long. They had to turn to the pen to limit the Guardians, to keep the game close, and they did the job. So yeah. I say Detroit for best bullpen of the wild card round.
Okay. And do you think that the fact that Will Vest only had to throw an inning in a third and only faced 5 hitters, do you think that the fact that Skubal stayed in as long as he did helped rest up the rest of a very, very weary group of relievers for the next 2 games, and then it helped them do better against the Guardians?
Without a doubt. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, and then Skubal is going to have to, going forward, he's going to be the workhorse he's going to take them as far as they can go. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I think when they play the Mariners, he could pitch games 2 and 5,
mm-hmm.
or 1 and 5, some early and then late. Like he's in line to appear possibly twice if needed.
Mm-hmm.
So, that tells you that, that's the game plan. Put the ball in this guy's hands and let's go. Let's get the team as far as they can, then turn to the bullpen. And that might end up being their downfall, but that's for another topic.
Okay. I had for strongest pen the Cubs, and it's because when they came in, it was almost always super high leverage. And the games were always close, and they completely stymied the Padres, like 100%. So, there's our 2 there. Whom did you have as the shakiest relief unit of the wild card round?
I mean, that's an easy one. It's the Dodgers. The Dodgers' way of winning now at this moment is score a ton of runs and cross your fingers, because that's what it's going to be. You're going to Yamamoto gave up too early. Snell was great. But then the bullpen, thank goodness they had like a multiple, 5-6 run lead because the bullpen just came in and imploded once again. I wouldn't say complete implosion because guys did work out of a couple jams, but that could have been a lot worse. I mean, that the Reds could have easily gotten right back into those games. And this is a problem that the Dodgers are going to have. This is what they were dealing with at the end of the season. I think you throw out that last regular season series because neither team, the Mariners or the Dodgers, really had anything on the line. They were already clinched, and they were just kind of going through the motions and saving their guys, resting their guys for the playoffs. But man, up until that, I mean, the Dodgers were just not there. They just haven't been good out of the bullpen, and there was a lot of money spent to upgrade that bullpen. There's several guys who haven't been 100%. It's something that, I mean, this is the way that they're going to do it. They have to score a ton and then just hope and pray that they can hang on.
Our last rankings, I had them in the group called Stock Up on Tums, but fans, I think, have stocked up on Tums, and they're also praying for a blowout win, which is the bottom group name. So, yeah, I had the Dodgers also. I had no rooting interest in those games, and every time they go in, they scare me to death. I don't know how Dave Roberts has any hair left, honestly. Or fingernails. Mark Pryor, his are probably gone too. Which relief unit do you have as the luckiest?
Probably the Yankees. Because they weren't that bullpen isn't that great either. And they had to come in situations and keep the Red Sox at bay. That was I think their starting pitching performed well. But the bullpen, I think it could have gone sideways for the Yankees, and they were able to piece together what they have and close out these games. And maybe the Red Sox weren't at their best in this series, but still they did win the first game. So yeah, I say Yanks.
I agree with you with the Yankees, and we saw in the first game the Yankees pen did falter, and then in the third game, I think the Yankees were very fortunate that Schlitter had the game he did. They only had to use Bednar because the other guys are just an implosion waiting to happen. It feels like even when they pitch well, you're just like, when's the other shoe dropping? Because Devin Williams has been up and down this year. Recently, he's been more up than down, but he still has his times. And we saw Luke Weaver have that happen in game one. But Bednar's been very steady. He's worked out well. Our mutual friend Barry Bloom and I were talking yesterday about the Yankees' moves at the deadline. And we felt that Brian Cashman made some very good moves. The only one that really didn't work out was Jake Bird, who ended up going straight to Scranton. But, I mean, Ryan McMahon, with that insane catch that Mac made yesterday, holy cow. I covered Mac with the Rockies, and I know Natalie, his wife, and I could tell as soon as that happened, I was just like, I bet you Natalie's heart is in her throat right now. When he dumped over there. I mean, he put his hands down, and thank goodness that Greg Weiser came over and caught Ryan's legs before they hit the ground in the dugout, because that could have been really bad.
Oh, yeah.
But, at that point, they're all humans. They don't want anybody getting hurt. Doesn't matter what shirt they're wearing.
Despite the rivalry. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're human beings first. So they don't want anybody getting hurt. So, yeah, there's that. And then Camilo Doval started off a bit rough, but he ended up working out okay. But, Bednar was a great move. He has worked well for the Yankees. So it's good that the Yankees only had to use him yesterday, I'm feeling, because, they used the other ones, Red Sox might have come back. But that's all academic, because that's not what happened. Schlitter did have a great game, and they only had to use Bednar. But I can see that coming into play against the Blue Jays. We'll get to that in a minute, though. As far as individuals go, which individual or individuals did you feel were the most dependable in the wild card round?
I mean, I'm trying to think of somebody for the Dodgers. I'm trying to think of, who did something that, mattered for the Dodgers.
Roki Sasaki did well.
Roki Sasaki was really
but he
good.
only pitched one inning. He struck out two of the three guys, but it's one inning. That's not
but that's
even close to a good sample.
That's a great that is really good for him, because he had a rough year, man, with the injury, and then taking so long to come back. I I saw him pitch against the Diamondbacks here in September, and he was unhittable. He came into that game. I think that was his first game off the injured list and just smoked it. And that really bodes well for the Dodgers. You're paying this guy a ton of money, and he was supposed to be in your starting rotation, but he could end up being that piece in the bullpen that really rights the ship there for them. So yes, that Roki Sasaki is another guy who I would say was a really good individual, even though it wasn't a small sample size. He got on the big stage, he got out of an inning, he was perfect. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, he did what he was asked to do, and he did it well. I had Andrew Kittredge and Drew Pomeranz. They both pitched in 2 games, and they both were hot knives through butter. The Padres could not touch them. Kittredge was a big deadline day pickup for the Cubs, one of the few they made. They got him from the Orioles. And then Pomeranz, you saw that we had that Drew Pomeranz ticker on here for a while because he hadn't given up an earned run in a relief appearance since 2021. Granted, he missed 2 years, but still, I mean, that was just amazing what he did. And he did it again here. Which reliever or relievers did you feel were the most dominant?
You just mentioned the 2 guys right there. Those guys were critical. The Guardians had a guy who came in and pitched a really solid inning there when they really needed it. Of course, it didn't work out for them, but hard to say. I mean, I think Detroit overall was the team I thought had the best showing out of their bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm looking at those guys because how many runs did the Guardians score in the series? Not a whole lot. And so,
so maybe for the Tigers, Will Vest.
That's one.
Yeah.
They were impressive because they had struggled so much going into that series. And, not saying that Cleveland has like an overpowering lineup, but those guys went in there and got the job done. And so, Vest and company.
Yeah. Okay. I had Mason Miller just because his strikeout percentage was 88.9%, which is absurd. It was really 88.8 forever. He struck out 8 of the 9 guys he faced. And remember that I don't remember who was batting for the Padres, but Miller dotted the corner at the knees on the outside corner. He dotted it with a 104 mile per hour fastball. Who's hitting that? Who in the history of baseball is hitting that?
I was surprised that Robert Suarez got.
What's that?
Robert Suarez got dinged up, and I mean, I thought, I thought he would be dominant. He has been really good in the past and regular season anyway. But I was a little surprised that the Cubs were able to get to him.
Well, even Suarez over the past 6 weeks started to show he's human. That brings up a question I'll get to in a minute. That's actually right now. At what point does fatigue kick in? Because a lot of these pens got used a lot during the year. And what we saw, remember last year, in 2024, the Guardians had a historically good season from their relief unit. And by the end of the division series, they were out of bullets. And you saw in the ALCS, the Yankees started to get to guys that hadn't been touched most of the year. We saw Clase start to falter. And no, I don't believe that was from gambling, shall we say, shenanigans. He really was, he was out of gas. All these guys are out of gas. So at what point are we going to see it again in this division round here? Are we going to see it in the championship series round? Did guys get managed better during the year, so now they have more in the tank? What do you think?
I mean, you're right on all points. I mean, I think we're going to see in this next round of playoff ball, the bullpens are going to really play a big part. They're going to factor in the game, win or lose. You're going to see bullpens implode in this round too, and it's a byproduct of starters not going maybe as long as they used to, and teams believing in the idea of going to the bullpen after 6 innings, 7 innings, 5 innings, what have you. Um, yeah, I mean, we saw it. We saw guys run out of gas in the wild card round. We saw them run out of gas down the stretch of the regular season.
Mhm.
I think that as sketchy as the Dodgers bullpen was, they're still fairly well rested. I don't think there was not a ton of guys in there that were overworked or that worked a ton of innings. So that
Well, a
might
lot of them
work out
spent a
to
lot
their
of time
advantage.
on the injured list. That's part of why.
Right. That's it. That's it. That's why. Because and so you're going to have these guys that are a little bit more fresh, and you're going to have a Sasaki who didn't even pitch out of the bullpen,
Mhm.
and he's going to be amped up. So that might be the way to advance. Just by having not been very active in the regular season, and then you get to the postseason when they really ask these guys to ramp it up, and that might make the difference.
Before we get into this division round, you covered the 0-1 Mariners,
I did.
and you saw like the story of that team's postseason. Really, what hurt them against the Yankees was their closer was Kazuhiro Sasaki, correct?
Yep.
All of a sudden, he had two bad games in a row, which he hadn't had very much during the regular season. I don't know if it was him running out of gas or the Yankees just got to him. Whatever it was, but you saw that in 0-1. Do you think that might come into play in their division series with the Tigers? Because the Mariners' pen during the year was one of the best in baseball. And Andres Munoz, we had as the top closer in the American League almost the entire season. So,
Yeah.
And you saw Munoz when they came through here. So, to those who don't know, we both live in the Phoenix area. So, in the Tigers Mariners round, what do you see playing out, at least bullpen wise? What do you see playing out there?
I think the Mariners have a better bullpen than Detroit does.
Okay.
I do. But it has to be. And the other thing is they got some rest. They didn't have to play the first round. That's going to be a factor. Detroit is running on fumes. They probably have been for a while, and they're just going to have to cross their fingers and hope that, if the starters get in trouble, that these guys can come in and just limit the damage. The Mariners have such a great starting rotation that those guys are going to give them innings, and then the bullpen, the middle relief, I'm not too super confident in, but I know that at the back end they're solid. So there's a bridge there that they have to close up and get that situation figured out. I think they can, and it's a different game, right? Like in 0-1, it was starter goes as long as you can. You turn to the closer. You may or may not. You might have one or two setup guys, maybe.
Mhm.
And that was ideally that's the way it's supposed to play out. But in this day and age, it's like we're going on matchups. We're going with lefty, righty. Who are we going to go to after three batters, something like that. So the bullpens are just managed differently now.
Mm-hmm. And the Mariners, remind me, whom did they have as setup for?
Yeah, Jeff Nelson.
You're right. Okay. The former
So-
Yankee, correct?
Yep.
And he was really good setting up John Wetland and then Mariano Rivera, correct? Was he
Right.
on the 96 Yankees also? Am I remembering correctly?
I can't recall, but he
Okay.
was there. He was one of the setup guys. Paniagua, Jose Paniagua,
Paniagua, right.
was kind of like a sixth, seventh inning guy.
Mhm.
So and then they had Arthur Rhodes.
Oh, yes, I remember him.
Yeah, so there was some tried and true veterans there that made a difference, and it just for one reason or another they just couldn't put it together the way they had all season.
I just looked it up. Nelson was on the 96 team, and he was on each of the three-peat teams. Yeah, and then the Yankees at that time had we're not in the era anymore where you can just pitch as long as you need to, and then Ramiro Mendoza will come in and pitch the eighth, and then Rivera will pitch the ninth. That doesn't happen
Right.
anymore.
No,
They
it
don't
doesn't
really have
happen.
guys like that anymore, on the Yankees at least. But the Mariners do have Gabe Spire pitching really well. They had a guy who late in the year became the number one closer or number one setup man in the American League in our rankings because he finally got enough appearances, that being Eduardo Bizardo. So they have him setting up Andres Munoz. I agree with you. Mariners definitely have a better pen, and they're rested, and they're rotate. Part of why they had such a good pen is what you mentioned with the rotation. They go long enough. They go deep enough. I love how Dan Wilson manages that pitching staff. Dan Wilson, who was the catcher on that 0-1 team that you covered.
Yep.
You probably know him rather well.
Catchers know. Catchers understand these things.
Yes, they do. They do. So who do you have in the division series of the Tigers and the Mariners? Whom do you have?
I'm all in on the Mariners, man. For both sentimental reasons and just talent reasons, it's their time, man. It's like if there was a time for the Mariners, this is it. Like, this is the time. It's been forever since that 0-1 season, since they've been that far. Never been to the World Series. It's got to happen for them at some point. They have the starting pitching. They have an offense thanks to the trade deadline and the acquisition of Josh Naylor and Gino Suarez. So it's all set up for them. They have everything in place to make that run, and I believe they're going to do it.
Let's go to that other American League matchup. Yankees, Blue Jays.
Yeah, I like the Blue Jays because they were solid all year long. They found something in Addison Barger. They found Alejandro Kirk's a pretty clutch hitter. He gets thrown out at first base, but hey, at least he hits the ball.
He hit that ball hard, though. Let's be fair.
He did. Hey, exactly. He hit the ball hard. He got thrown out.
Yeah.
It's a catch. I'm not expecting him to run super fast. So I like the lineup a lot, man. I like the pieces they have. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It's just they were impressive when they played the Diamondbacks when I went out there and covered that series.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those teams where like the fan base is so loyal and they care so much, and it's a Blue Jays town. It's always going to be a Maple Leafs town more than anything, right? But the Blue Jays have such a devoted fan base. It's their time too, I think, to get as far as the championship series round.
Yeah. It is a Maple Leafs town, but the Maple Leafs are always done by May, so
that's true. Turn your attention to baseball in May.
I like hockey too, as our fans can see here. I'm finally far enough back from the camera so you can see what's on these red shirts. I was a Coyotes fan for 28 years, but when my heart got ripped out of my chest, I picked the Flames, and I'm back in the Flames. Dustin Wolf, great goalie. They're going to have a nice... Why don't you show us that puck that you got at the Hockey Hall of Fame while you were up in Toronto? Look at that. That's just beautiful. That's just beautiful. Did you see that you did see did they have both Stanley Cups there or just the one?
I just saw one.
Okay.
But the Hall of Trophies is pretty cool. The exhibits, it's kind of a weird setup, man. It feels like you're walking into like a food court at a shopping mall.
Oh,
but then you walk past all of that, and there's the Hockey Hall of Fame at the end of the building there. It's sort of in a basement level.
Oh, okay.
It's not like a glamorous looking place like Cooperstown, or I don't know what the NBA Hall of Fame looks like, but I'm guessing it's a freestanding building on its own.
It's and it is a freestanding building, and the marquee is shaped like a basketball.
Yeah, and then Canton, Ohio, the pro football. I mean, that's that iconic football shape, building in the middle. But this place is just like if not for the signage outside, you wouldn't even know it was there.
Gotcha.
So, but you walk in and then you see all this great stuff and the history of the game, and if you're a hockey guy, it's a place that you got to see.
Absolutely. Well, I'm hoping when I finally get to cover a series in Toronto, and being someone who covers the A's, I'm imagining if that continues for long enough, I will get up there at some point. And I can say, as someone who's been to the Basketball Hall of Fame, I actually was rather disappointed. It closed at 4. What Hall of Fame closes at 4? Who closes at 4?
4 Eastern time at that.
Yeah. Eastern time at that. So 1 here, yeah.
1 o'clock, yeah. You got to show up at 7 a.m.
We got there like 11:30, and I felt rushed there toward the end because I'm someone who wants to take in everything. There were cool parts there, but I felt they could have done so much more with it. And then Cooperstown, I mean, it was night and day different. Cooperstown blew the Basketball Hall of Fame out of the water. It wasn't even close. In fact, the St. Louis Cardinals Team Hall of Fame was better than the Basketball Hall of Fame,
Sure.
which is partly a knock on the Basketball Hall of Fame, but it's also a huge compliment to the job that Amy Barra has done as the curator of that Hall of Fame there in St. Louis. And if anyone watching this, if you haven't been to that Hall of Fame, do it. It's totally worth it. I got to hold Stan Musial's bat when I was there about a month ago. Yes, the room got dusty. It's Stan Musial's bat. How could it not? A lot of dust on it. It was from the 50s. Yeah, that's what we'll go with. All right, so moving on. National League. The league the Cardinals are in. Wondering which series to talk about first. Someone who will remain nameless told me Dodgers Phillies is the real World Series. We'll do that one first. Dodgers and Phillies. Whom do you have there?
Sure. I mean, that's a fair assessment, possibly. I think the Dodgers have the advantage of having been there, of having won it all last year. I think that does help have sort of an intangible effect that is a positive for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think both teams have question marks, and it's just a matter of who's going to be able to exploit the weakness of the other team better.
Okay.
So, can the Phillies keep the game close and then get to the Dodger bullpen and then just wreck it and win? Can the Dodgers build big leads and then hold on to them? Can the Dodgers pitching staff limit that lineup that the Phillies have? I didn't watch a ton of Phillies, but I wasn't always impressed with what I saw. Honestly, I think the Dodgers have more talent on paper, and I don't see the Phillies winning this one. I see the Dodgers moving on simply for the fact that I just think there are too many weapons. I think Ohtani's going to set the tone when he comes out to pitch in game one. He's going to be tough to hit. The Phils have, at least two really solid starting pitchers, and you hope that Aaron Nola can contribute in a good way, some way. But I think beyond those first couple guys, it's beatable. They're beatable in that sense. And the starting pitching hasn't always been that consistent. So I think the Phillies have a few more questions to answer than the Dodgers do, because the Dodgers have been in this position. They have pretty much the same lineup, and they seem to have their starting rotation seems to be in a place maybe that they haven't been all year, where it's really good right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's their advantage.
Yamamoto's tough. He's looked really good recently. For me, the key is if the games stay close, I give it to the Phillies. Phillies pen has been really good down the stretch. They had a bit of a shaky, few days going into the final week, but other than that, they've been really good down the stretch. Joan Duran was one of the greatest pickups of the deadline that any team made. He was exactly what they needed. Bringing in David Robertson, although his performance on the field, it was pretty good and then kind of fell off a bit. David Robertson, talking to the Phillies relievers I did on our last episode, they told me all the stuff David Robertson does here, and giving them guidance and giving them wisdom from the pen as a guy who is the only active player left from the '09 Yankees. So he's the only active player with a Yankee championship, to his own credit. Granted, the Phillies manager has a Yankee championship too, because he was on that staff. But still, I'm chasing a rabbit here. But if they can keep it close, I give it to the Phillies. If it's not close, it goes with the Dodgers. I think simply because it is the postseason, it's going to stay closer. So I have the Phillies, but I have it like in the fifth game. I don't think it's going to be a short series at all.
Yeah.
Of course, I could have egg on my face on the next episode, but we'll see. Now the last one. This one I have gone back and forth on, and I'm still not entirely sure what to expect out of this series. I-94 rivalry. Brewers and Cubs. An hour apart by car. When I was gonna cover a series in Milwaukee and then that ended up falling through, I actually was flying into O'Hare. Bob Nightingale recommended that to me. He said, you'll get maybe 2 or 3 flights to Milwaukee a day. He said, you'll get a bunch to Chicago, fly to Chicago, rent a car, it's an hour. I was like, okay. And then it didn't work out. But what do you see going on in this series, Cubs Brewers?
I think Milwaukee is gonna have the home field advantage. It's gonna be big for them. They battled and earned it all year. They earned it with the best record.
Mm-hmm.
So the lineup isn't super impressive, but those guys just keep coming through. These guys that are kind of no names everywhere else keep coming through. You have your established veteran who's kind of the one that makes it all go, and Christian Yelich. You have Jackson Chourio, who's now a year older, in another year of experience in the league, and he's a budding rising star. And then you just have a bunch of guys who are grinders and who are, find ways to come up big, names that you hardly even know. And you couple that with a decent pitching staff, and the fact that the Brewers, they're playing with Bob Uecker in their hearts. I mean, the intangibles are right there, man. It's like, I was pretty impressed with what I saw, even though there was a series split when they played the Diamondbacks when I was out there. But I think this Brewers team has so much going for it. The manager is fantastic. He knows he presses all the right buttons. He knows how to motivate these guys. It's a rivalry. So many Cub fans inundate American Family Field in the regular season and try to take it over and make it a Cub home game. There's a lot of motivation here for the Brewers to win this series, and I think they will.
I got the Brewers. And what I have there, even though their pen has been a question mark at times, recently they've been in very good form. Pat Murphy has a talent for getting the most out of his guys. He's been that way a long time. In fact, a lot of people may not know this. Pat Murphy was Craig Counsell's manager when Craig Counsell played at Notre Dame. I saw Pat Murphy at Arizona State for years. I had friends who played for him, and they told me he is really good at getting the most out of people. And you and I both have a pretty good relationship with him. We both have some pretty funny stories that I don't think we can tell on here, honestly. But Murph's a blast to be around. I love talking with him.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta stop laughing here. Just thinking of them. Fans watching, I'm sorry I can't share these stories. I really can't, but I really wish I could because they're amazing. But yeah, I gotta say I gotta go with the Brewers just because of everything you mentioned there with the intangibles and, Uke in their hearts. And what if the World Series ends up being Mariners-Brewers? Wouldn't that be awesome?
That
The
would
team
be
that left
fantastic.
Seattle versus the team that's in Seattle. It would be the first time since 1980 and only the second time since 1920 where both teams in the World Series had yet to win a title. So no matter what, we were guaranteed to have a first-time champion. Two fan bases that have just been through enough. Oh my gosh. One like, punch in the stomach after another for both of them. That would just be an amazing World Series. So the part of me that likes storylines is winning that World Series, but you know how I am. What I root for is for everybody to be successful and nobody to get hurt. So I really don't care for that standpoint, but a good storyline would be Mariners-Brewers, but we're digressing there. So I do have the Brewers because of some other intangible things there and the fact that Murphy is so good at getting the most out of his guys. Not to say Counsell isn't, but Murphy just has that little bit of an edge there, I would think. And the Brewers,
and they didn't really revamp their team at the deadline.
They didn't really have to.
So
what's that?
Yeah, so they stood pat and Pat Murphy. But
we were thinking the same thing.
They stood pat. They kept it all together. They kept the nucleus, the core. They kept all the good vibes they have going on together, and it's paid off. Here they are. So this is just as it is for me, the Mariners' time. On that side, I think the Brewers can at least get to the next round, and who knows from there.
And they played both the Phillies and the Dodgers well, if I remember correctly. I know they swept the Dodgers. I think they played the Phillies well. There was a game in Milwaukee that went crazy because of some just goofiness that I don't know if we could count on happening again, but yeah, that's all that there. So, any final thoughts from you, either on the wild card round or on the division round, or just stuff you like to see happen as we wrap up our time together here?
I just like the parity that we're seeing. I don't see a team that is just way dominant over everybody else. I don't even see 2 teams or 3 teams that are like head and shoulders above everybody else. I think, there's maybe a couple of teams that might be fortunate to be in the round right now where they are, but every team has some sort of exploitable weakness that makes it even with everybody else. So it's just a matter of who is going to rise above that weakness and come through. And it's a wide open field, man. That's what I think. I think that, maybe the Phillies could be the best, overall team as a whole, but there's weaknesses there. There's things that, that they have to be better at. The Dodgers obviously have the talent and the pedigree, and they've been there. They were the defending champs. But every team has an advantage and a disadvantage, and that's the biggest thing for me. I want to see which teams are able to rise above whatever weakness they deal with and move on to the next round and the next round after that. But sentimentally, man, I really hope Seattle makes a really long run. I hope they get to the World Series, even if they don't win it all. I sure hope they get there, man, because those people they deserve it. It's been a long time coming, and man, that place would just be electric if it happened.
It would. Something else to consider. The Dodgers being the defending champions. If they do end up doing it, they'll be the first back-to-back champion Major League Baseball has had this century. Remember, the 21st century began in 2001. The last team to win back-to-back was the Yankees three-peat 98 through 2000. The last National League team to do it, I was not yet born, and you were really small, the 75-76 Reds. But the 75-76 Reds were only the 3rd National League team to ever do it. We had the 07-08 Cubs and the 21-22 Giants, and then the 75-76 Reds. That's it in the National League. It is really, really hard to do. It's hard to win a World Series. It's harder to win another one. So, that's another thing to keep in mind. We'll see. It's going to be fun. I love playoff baseball. I think the only playoff that's better than playoff baseball is the Stanley Cup playoffs. And even then, not by a ton, I'm going to have to say. Sorry, hockey fans. Baseball playoffs are really, really good because they have drama on everything, but there's nothing like the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, postseason hockey is a different animal. But, Jose, thank you for coming by here again. I know we went off the rails a bit at times, but it's always a good time. Love having you come by. Love hearing your baseball wisdom and your awesome jokes, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Evan. I appreciate it, man.
That concludes this installment of Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza from Sport Relay. Join us next time when we will review the 4-division series and preview the League Championship Series. I'm Evan Thompson. Thanks for watching, and we will see you then.
Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Click subscribe so you'll never miss an episode of this show or of our other show, Trade Trees. Tell your friends and baseball contacts. If you haven't done so yet, consider buying my books, A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volume 1 and Volume 2. There are links in the description box below this video. And finally, bookmark and regularly visit sportrelay.com. Until next time, this is Evan Thompson saying so long for now.